Everybody, thanks for sticking with us on that short break. We've got players ready to go here for round 11 of the 2025 NASPA Scrabble Players Championship. The matchup we have for you right now is Rasheed Balogun and Austin Shin, who we just saw lose kind of a heartbreaking one in the last round.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Hopefully, Austin's had some time to collect himself and put on a great game. I know he has it in him. Let's see it. He will be playing against Rasheed Balogun. Rasheed Balogun. Rasheed is 6-4, and he's currently in 10th place. He's got some work to do if he wants to make the finals, but what better way to do that than to try to knock down the person in third place? We see he's had a couple of tough losses this morning, but I think he'll be ready to go.
Yeah, Rasheed's been kind of perpetually roughly a 2,000 rated player. We see him a little bit below that standard currently, but definitely one of America's or North America's top Collins players. Austin needs no introduction. In fact, we gave him one last round, so we won't repeat too much of it, but this should be a great game.
Great player. Austin abides by the motto, scoring never stops, which is why he never exchanges. No, just kidding. But he does like to pile on the points when he can. Rasheed is drawing tiles, which means we are about to get going.
Okay, is his first letter. I like seeing the K on my first rack. That means I have a pretty good shot of scoring like 30 or something like that. So that's a good start for him. He also has a blank here. I think he does have bingos available. We'll see what he does.
Yeah, I see lurking right away. Do we have one that doubles the K? That might be what Rasheed's thinking about.
I think he's got earn like. He's got to be aware enough not to try lunkier, which is, I believe, the phony attempt you would make out of a rack like earn like.
Yeah, luckily Lunkier also doubles the K. Sorry, Lunkier fails to double the K. It might not be something you would even think about because it's tough to play something you're unsure of, and it doesn't score that well anyways, given that it doesn't double the K. But Rasheed has earn like spelled out, so I think this will go down pretty quickly.
Yeah, the downside is like words are kind of hard to keep track of. Some very marginal nouns take like, and some very normal nouns don't take like. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot which ones are good and which ones aren't. We see Rasheed going for lurking here, which isn't too much of a surprise given that it's hard to keep track of all the like words.
Yeah, now we're in another one of those tricky spots with the words. Some of the words take ing, some of the words do not. This one happens to take ing. Don't think it's going to be correct this time. Leeway is a pretty nice choice, but if Austin plays leeway, he's likely to eventually have to think about lurkings.
Yeah, that's we saw it play out a couple games ago with sort of an S hook on an ing word that was kind of unknown, and maybe you could consider it unknowable unless you have a method for keeping them straight. Lurking, I feel like, is in that same boat. We'll see if that has ramifications later.
Yeah, for sure. Rasheed getting a pretty nice follow-up. It looks like he has things like pleated and petaled. We'll have to see if those play afterwards. Another option being end plate, which is a word we already saw on stream. Ben Schoenbrunn forwent it and then redrew it and then played it. Also things like paleted and pedaled with two L's. So a lot of choices for Rasheed. We'll see what ends up remaining after Austin's play. Likely to be something like leeway.
Yeah, I think unless he wants to burn his S here, leeway is his highest scoring option. Just sort of moves on from all those letters. The W and the Y are both not good bingo tiles at all. It's a little bit sad to part with your two E's, but the E is the most common tile in the bag, so very likely that you will draw more of them later, so you don't have to get too attached to them too early in the game. I do like something like leeway here.
Hey, what do you think about something like WEY on top of lurking? It leaves the N open as a floater with AEIS, and it leaves another spot for an S hook in case Rasheed himself uses lurkings. I don't mind that idea either.
Yeah, that is actually a very nice idea, especially if Austin's unsure of lurkings. It creates an S hook that he actually knows 100%. And you
That's
mentioned, Matt, with the floating N out there, maybe the G to a lesser extent, the leave of AEIS is a little
yeah.
bit more acceptable.
Unfortunately, this time for Austin, Rasheed has a nice overlap with pedaled. Fits with EW, TEL, and AYU as Austin draws a nice rack. He's going to have Bezonian and Begonias at the very least, depending on what Rasheed does. Begonias will still be open if Rasheed sees pedaled.
Yeah, it looks like Rashid does have pleated set up on his rack. Should take some time to make sure he can. Yeah, he's making overlaps here, but he's got. Oh no, wait, he's actually going for epilated here. I think this might be his lowest scoring option, but a bingo
Yeah,
nonetheless.
does have a couple of choices there that are all 62. Depilate and pileated are also words. This one will set up a couple of options for Austin, including the niobates, botanies, botanize, obeisant, quad, bedesonia, I believe is a word.
Yeah, and still the begonias from the previous turn. Yeah, this is a decent play from Rashid. I would be a little bit afraid of the. I'm taking a lead here, so I don't want to set up too much for my opponent. Like, if I can score more with my bingo and not give back a T in a double double, I would probably do that. Also, epilated takes a D in front for depilated, sort of a sneaky double double spot up top as well. When you're
Yeah,
taking a lead like that, you want to be a little bit more cautious of what you're giving back.
Austin with a bit of a deficit now, but he does have the 76-point play of Bedsonia. I think that's what we're seeing. It is spelled out on his rack. Bedsonia also kind of forks the board. It's going to be hard to shut down everything because of the way epilated fits on the board. Rasheed drawing the D, which is very nice because he can immediately take out the spot that he opened with epilated. It takes a front D, so now we can see something like Fjord and depilated, which I like a lot as a choice, assuming I didn't miss a bingo.
I wonder. So, Matt, fjordic is a word with a J, and fjord can be spelled with an I. Do you think we see maybe fjordic with an I here, which would be phony?
Oh boy, that's tough. Luckily, I think that's probably just high enough prob that it feels wrong. But yeah, certainly tough when the main spelling takes an inflection like I see. Does the alternate one do it too? Another option on this turn going to just be if it scores 28 points. Very open, but not as bad as you think. A little bit tricky to really use that spot for all it's worth. Austin with quartets as a double double, probably a very welcome sight. Probably was starting to get tilted after losing a game and seeing Rasheed open with two bingos, but this is going to be a really nice post bingo draw, given that he has a double double.
Yeah, this is going to be a barn burner once Austin gets his next bingo down. If Rashid does go for if IF for 28, as you say, Matt, it's not that dangerous. SI doesn't take in many vowels. In fact, it doesn't take any vowels. You kind of have to end with an R or a T or something like that. And the OF is hard to work with. So it feels dangerous, but isn't as bad as it could be. It would get hit pretty hard with quartets, although that might not actually be more points than quartets. Either way, Austin's going to get something big.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my shoes, I feel like you have to just take up the triple if you have any sort of option down there, and I think that's what Austin would do. But it is insurance in case Austin's bingo's only played through as like a double double. Then you're actually setting yourself up with a triple triple. So if is a good option, pretty likely to bingo, especially with the D hook on epilated. Fjord right away blocking depilated, also a very solid choice. Let's see what Rasheed ends up doing.
Yeah, he could do Fjord up there with Deplated. He also could just do Void up there, maybe make it a little bit less likely for damaging plays on the double letter, double word axis. Either one is pretty good there.
Rasheed
But
has Rico spelled out, type of stew dish from the Canadian province of New Brunswick.
yeah,
Now he's
some weird Canadian words have made it in. Some very very local words.
I don't think people from New Brunswick are weird. Matthew Tunnicliffe's mom is awesome. Thank you very much.
So we see Rasheed go for if. That seems like a good balance between scoring and trying to get a bingo with those floaters, the E and the A and the T. Bingo seems relatively likely with a decent enough draw, but Austin's going to get right back into this game. In fact, I think he's going to take a pretty solid lead here with Querist, which I hadn't noticed before, but fits perfectly here, hitting the cue in exactly the right spot. This is 134 points.
Yeah, very nice welcome break for Rasheed. Interestingly enough, Rasheed has code driven, which doesn't look like it fits, but it does through the E and epilated. Very nice fit forming Ryu and Del and
That
OW.
That'll take a little bit of board vision, just doing your due diligence. If you see code driven and you see all those letters in the way, you're very likely, if you're not disciplined enough for looking at the spot, you're very likely to just skip over it. Say, oh, the E is blocked in that way.
Yeah,
The E needs to be earlier in the word, so I'll just move on from this. We hope Rasheed takes his time looking at those overlaps.
yeah, Rasheed has corvid spelled out. A corvid is another word for a crow, and it's probably going to play with depilated. That's probably what he's thinking of. It does check some of the boxes. It blocks the S hook when you don't have one for way, blocks the D hook, which is pretty volatile, and it scores about as well as you're going to score if you don't see code driven. Code-driven is going to be a tricky spot. Luckily, it is a high prob word that I think Rasheed knows, but the fit is going to be very tricky. So let's see what looks like he's spelling it out.
Yeah, I think it's dawning on him that all the letters, all the words actually work, and it's probably a little bit surprised by that. It's always a nice feeling when you fit in something clever like that in a spot where you wouldn't think it would fit. So
Yeah, for
looks like he's got it
sure.
set up.
It's still early in the game. There's at least a chance at this point that both of them reach 500. That would be pretty cool to get on stream.
Yeah, we've had some low scoring ones on stream up to this point. I guess I haven't paid close enough attention. I don't think we've had a complete barn burner, but this one is shaping up to be it's going to have a lot of fireworks involved.
Yeah, for sure.
It looked like he had it set up, but he's moving away from it. That's a little bit concerning.
Yeah. See a suggestion in the chat for Austin to fish for opgafak, a South African slang term that's not safe for stream, but unfortunately the K is already on the board, so that would be tough. Rasheed playing Corvid unfortunately does not see the amazing fit for code driven.
But yeah, this is still a really nice play for the reasons you mentioned, Matt. Blocks that S hook on way, plays all the letters that he doesn't want, blocks or uses up depilated, scores decently. This is a nice consolation prize, but the bingo would have been a really nice play to get back in this game.
Yeah, Austin with a J, maybe just Joe in the new spot that Rasheed has created. I don't hate that choice. A little bit worried that it's too open with the triple. Sorry, with the bingo lane. But we actually see Austin challenging. Let's see what he's actually challenging. I'm not sure.
I'm guessing it's depilated here, but yep.
Yeah, depilate is a word. I think it means to remove hair.
Yeah, I think that one's relatively common, but if Austin's unsure, he can send that one back and take a 100-point lead. That feels like really good. For 5 points, you might as well give it a look.
Yeah, wouldn't it be funny if he challenged and then played elsewhere and then Rasheed finally saw code driven had it not been a word? That would be very funny.
Yeah, I actually did see that play out at a recent tournament. A game next to me was a phony four, I think, got challenged off, and then the opponent exchanged, and the player who played the phony four bingoed. So there had been no change to the state of the board, and he just decided to bingo rather than playing a phony four.
Yeah, Austin with maybe two different ways to go this turn. JO is the equity play up top on top of the Corvid play. He can also try to go for a more exhaustive board with something like Jogger through the G and lurking. Jogger also kills a lot of the lurking's possibilities if you're not sure.
Yeah, there's some peace of mind to be gained just by like eliminating a hook that you're not sure of. Then you don't, it's not looming over you like, what do I do if my opponent plays here? What do I do if my best play is here? If you can remove all those considerations, there is a little bit of mental overhead that gets taken off your shoulders.
Yeah, definitely. I don't hate the idea of Jogger also blocking the A as a floater, the T as a floater, so that is always nice. But Joe is 38 points. That is pretty hard to say no to. I think I could go either way on this one.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'm taking the points here. Rasheed just played 6 tiles, so his rack is very, very random. Austin doesn't need to be overly concerned at this point with blocking the floating A and T for bingos. Just taking the points here makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, very, very nice. Rashid with a little bit of an interesting choice. The highest scoring play being something like Zits or Sits. These plays having kind of an issue with opening up the board. Actually, no, he can play Sits on top of Bedsonia. That seems pretty nice.
Yeah, that actually is a sneaky 50 points. He does give up his S, which would be nice for Bedsonias or Lurkings, but 50 points is 50 points. He's basically, with this play, getting back into the game without worrying about a bingo. This is a lot more straightforward and more likely to work out than praying for a bingo when you've got clunky letters.
That said, something like Tiz does bingo quite a bit, especially with the A as a floater. And as an homage to Austin to fish for something like that. Austin with over Pag. He has not the greatest options. They all kind of score 20 to 30. What are you thinking of, Charles?
My first inclination is that ZA just became available. Can I do anything with that? And then what I see there is just Gov, G-O-V, keeping a pretty
Yeah.
nice set of vowels and consonants. The V in that spot is a little bit scary. IVE bingos, IVE triple triples could happen there, for example. But it can't be underlapped, and it's more likely that there's a 24-point play there than there is, a 80 or 100-point play there. So Gov at first glance looks like a pretty good idea. I don't see, there's not a ton of other scoring spots available to cash in the V and the G.
Yeah, this is one of those spots where you have to kind of think about just how open the V is. It's a little bit obscured, and you also can't go underneath a V with a parallel play because the V doesn't make two-letter words. So maybe not quite as concerning as it looks upon first glance. I don't hate the idea of just Gov.
I think any play Austin makes here should definitely be looking. Actually, yeah, maybe I shouldn't say that. So I was saying get rid of the V. Maybe not necessarily if you can keep over, but then again, how likely is it that your bingo starting with over is actually going to go on this board? He does currently have over page that just barely doesn't fit through the E of depilated. It's very likely that if he was going for a bingo like that, it still wouldn't fit on this board.
Yeah, I like this idea of Gov. It looks like he's about to put it down. It's one of those plays where you can kind of, hey, wait a minute. This isn't as open as it looks. It sets up a lot of 30-point plays, but it doesn't set up too much more than that. It's going to be hard to triple through it. So I'm going to take the points and the nice A, E, P, R leave and try to hit a bingo maybe through the T or the A.
And he also does just have Pave coming back for 36 points if he needs it next turn, which is a lot more than he's scoring anywhere else on this board. So I think this will split the difference very nicely between going for bingo and then just being able to score next turn without a bingo.
Yeah, Rasheed in kind of a similar spot to Austin where he can say, hey, I'll take the equity play and I will leave this open. The equity play would be playing UFO. UFO would form cow, but it's very open. But he can also choose to play something like Dove, taking it himself and kind of cutting off some of the scoring options on this board. What do you think, Charles?
Yeah, the first thing I think when that V goes out there, if I'm Rashid, is like, oh, I have to play there. That's too dangerous. But it's really not, as we discussed earlier, isn't that dangerous of a spot. He doesn't have to. Basically, he'd be playing two of his best letters with the D and the E just to use that spot, keeping the F and the U and some
Now,
consonants together. It's not a great leave.
now,
So
can you see why on this board the D is actually an excellent tile? Rashid has an interesting option with the D that is tricky to spot.
hmm, is some maybe something involving Querist. I'm not exactly sure.
No, what if he sticks the D in between Joe and EL? He could play something like Fiad, or he could
Oh
play
wow.
something like Todd and keep it a little bit tighter. Nice thing about Todd is it stops a similar version of that that's also an S setup. Rashid is going with Dove, however, cutting off the triple.
Yeah, I don't think this is a bad play. It scores nicely and prevents Austin from doing the same in that spot. Unfortunately, the leave is not great. He's just down by 11 points, so he's still just trying to claw his way back into this game through sheer power of scoring, which I think is a good strategy on this board.
For sure, Austin with a little bit of an annoying spot. No P for something like Bagpiper, and he's going to look for a while. I think all of his plays are going to kind of not be up to his standards for what he's looking for here, and eventually he's just going to have to settle on something.
Yeah, I wonder if he tries to keep RIG to go for Ring Dove. That could be an option here. There are four ends unseen.
Yeah, a lot of really disappointing options here. Biga over Bedsonia, very sad play. It does keep about as good as a leave as he's going to get. Very sad though. There's choices. Maybe there's a one tile fish that bingos a lot here, but it's going to be tough without an S for lurkings.
Yeah, the
Maybe.
other bingo spot here would just be above Joe. That would require specific consonants to go there. Like the P is not going to help him there, for example, which is maybe the out of these consonants the most likely to start the bingo. So yeah, kind of a situation here where he doesn't have a standout play that he would really feel good about.
Yeah, gonna be an annoying spot. I think we're gonna see a bit of a tank. I think Austin's gonna generate a lot of plays that aren't quite up to his standard for what he's expecting to find or maybe wanting to play here, and he's gonna end up tanking and ultimately picking something that's pretty disappointing. I kind of like the scoring route with something like Parv through the V, Parve, a word meaning in the kosher guidelines containing meat nor milk. But Austin's going with Piba. Maybe he's thinking of ring dove.
Yeah, I think that was specifically keeping the letters for Ring Dove, which he has drawn, so that will be scoring for him on a future turn. Probably this next turn, there's very little chance that Dove gets blocked.
Yes, this could go the route of scoring so much that even a bingo for Rasheed doesn't quite do it.
We see Rasheed going pretty quickly for faux here, scoring 30, keeping anti. But Matt, he did have fax for 45 underneath Payba, which just got opened up for him. That's kind of a big sacrifice to make just for the sake of a better leave.
Yeah, I'm wondering. It's definitely a bit thematic with Rasheed's deficit, and we see him drawing a nice rack. I don't hate the idea. He's correctly assessing that his situation is still not great. Austin quickly going with Ring Dove. I do worry a little bit that he has too many consonants, but I don't know what else to do, so it's probably the correct play.
Yeah, Ringdove is 39 points. Does need to keep the scoring pressure on. He was only up by one before that turn, and we do have to keep in mind his motto that scoring never stops unless it's temporarily paused.
And Rasheed in an interesting spot. He does have bingos. In order to play the best of them, he needs to know lurkings is a word. I think there's a chance that he's not sure and he ends up playing Senorita. Has somewhat of an advantage, sets up less floaters in less good spots, but yeah, Rations or Roints is going to be a lot higher scoring.
Yeah, I would be very surprised to see either of those just because Rashid can't risk the chance that his bingo comes off the board and that Austin does something really tight to block roasting and Senorita. That would be a worst case scenario for Rashid that I don't think he wants to confront. So I'm fully expecting to see Senorita come down.
Yeah, Senorita will put Rashid in the lead by 16 points. It'll probably be roughly a coin flip after that. But yeah, Roints and Rations, a much higher scoring play. But we're going to see Senorita. It's good to get a bingo down. It's good to keep some time for the end game. So, solid choice. And Austin with a little bit of a clunky rack, two H's, but a lot of scoring potential. Charles, what are you thinking?
Yeah, with the new double word score on top of Senorita available, Austin can just do something like ha. Pretty. It feels like a very standard play just to move on from the two H's and the U and get some more points on the board. I would be a little bit concerned about overlaps on top of ha, making a he. You might be giving back as many points as you score. So maybe my first inclination isn't the best one there, but it's certainly something to think about.
Yeah, I usually like to think about the words that don't take a front hook. That would be something like DI, but I don't think there is a great way to do anything there. Maybe it's hut, sacrificing quite a bit, but those A's are very ominously lurking in the unseen pool. If you play something like hut, you might be able to squeak it out over the course of several turns.
Yeah, the scoring spots are not super plentiful on this board, so if you give up a spot for your opponent to score 30 or 40, it's a pretty big deterrent to making that play. The only other real nice spot that I'm seeing here is like around the area of Piba. That might be another place where Rashid's able to score now that he's drawn some A's. Austin can't really do much over there. He does not have letters that play nicely with the P and the B. So really, he's probably looking at Senorita as the primary scoring spot. Also, if he's spotted Joe Dell, he might be sort of thinking about that for future turns, trying to keep the D and see if he can get something there later.
Yeah, YOD would be a really welcome sight if you can see the spot with Yodel. It would be, I think, 36 points. That could easily get him over the hump to win this game. And he's putting down Ha. I like this idea. I think that is really the only choice.
Yeah, it has downsides, as we mentioned, the A on top of high, but 32 points and getting rid of some odd looking letters, keeping the D and the Y. Maybe he draws one of the two remaining O's. There's a lot to like about it.
Rashid, think Ma on top. Don't think there's going to be too many options otherwise. Sorry, I saw that wrong. Sorry, MNA. I think it's going to be hard to do anything other than that. It's a nice
Yeah.
tight play.
Yeah, the nice thing about this is it does keep Ma for later on top of Peba.
Yeah,
So a nice two-turn sequence here with all those M's and W's and stuff. Actually getting a lot out of it.
yeah, I think so. I like this idea. I think it's really nice to leave Ma for later, but as opposed to cashing it out now. The Ahi spot, it's definitely a little bit more volatile.
So now we see Austin at a relatively decent sized deficit. He doesn't need to freak out about bingoing at this point. Like on this board, that would not be the route to go. He just needs to keep up scoring pressure. Unfortunately, did not draw an O for Yod in that sneaky Yodel spot. And the rest of his options aren't super good. He can play off his good tiles for 27 points with something like Yid underneath Peba, but that keeps quite poor assortment of letters and puts a Y in the triple line. I think he would probably move on from that one relatively quickly. So, but it's hard to say. He doesn't have a whole lot else on this board, Matt.
Yeah, for sure. This is the part where I start to think about going for a bingo, somewhat going for broke. It's not, it doesn't look that desperate, but it could definitely be hard to come back with any other choice. You play something like Yeed down there, and Rasheed will just play white, and then it's like, now what am I going to do? And I got rid of both my E's. I have a pretty bad leave, so definitely think you might start to think about just going for the bingo already.
Yeah, and
Another
go ahead.
Sorry. Another interesting option is Yipe. Not going to work great this time, but it does kind of make it so that you can try another one to stack on top and try to get towards an opening.
Yeah, that is actually worth considering. Yipe doesn't immediately do anything for you, but you still have enough game here where you'll have at least, one or two more turns to sort of shape the board how you want, and maybe Yipe is the way you start doing that.
Yeah, one of those spots where you kind of start thinking about it and then you finish it later. We could see Dave through the V as a sort of like scorer without the scoring tile of the Y, and hope for something like YA on your next turn blocking Pipa. Fortunately, Rasheed will get there first. Tricky spot for Austin.
Yeah, tough spot for Austin, as you say. Rashid's got some A's, so that Piba's spot is going to score a lot of points. It's going to be really hard for Austin to deal with that many points coming from Rashid's side. Dave, yeah, does have some merit. Just immediate. It's one of the few plays I see on this board that actually immediately opens up a bingo line. That's a little bit annoying to block. If Rashid wants to focus on blocking after Dave, he's going to be looking at like an 8 point play or something, like a little two tile play there, which
Yeah,
might play into Austin's hand a little bit in terms of coming back organically at this score.
I think Austin, if he plays Dave, Rasheed will be playing Maw pretty quickly because his options just aren't great, and he'll be up three. And then it might be tricky to come up with something with DUITY. So that might be swaying his decision making process here.
Yeah, it's just the Dave would be a really good play if the leave was better, but with keeping UITY, it's just so rarely going to work out. Both blanks are played, so those aren't coming to save you. You would probably need another turn to fix up your rack, at least one more turn to fix up your rack after that, and that's just one more turn where Rashid can either pull further ahead or go all in on blocking the spot.
Yeah, definitely one of those spots. But this is probably one of those situations that kind of separates the experts from the super elite experts. The ability to kind of parse through this and come up with some sort of a winning line.
Yeah, this turn would be a lot different if Austin had drawn an A or an O for that Yodel spot. He would be able to stay in this game just on the power of his scoring rather than trying to get desperate for bingo. So tough luck for Austin not to draw. I guess there were five options for him on that turn, so a little bit tough there.
Yeah, definitely. And Austin's getting down to 7 minutes. I think we're going to see something pretty quick. You definitely want to leave some time for the pre-end game and the end game. It's probably going to be an interesting one if Austin gets a few more points. It could definitely be a close one where maybe he has only one winning sequence. Some other interesting ideas involve playing Door or TOR and immediately setting up a little bit more of an obvious spot for 7 letter words. don't know if there's the greatest options with that, but maybe something like Deity is a bit of a way to go for broke in a way where it's hard to completely shut it down afterwards.
Yeah, that is actually a decent idea. After Deity, if Rasheed sort of tries to block a little bit, he's almost always going to be giving back a triple word score in some capacity. He's
Yeah,
going to be giving back some kind of bingo line. Oh, I mean, we see from Austin's end that he'd be keeping U, E, drawing into a pool that's not really that fantastic, especially with the U. It's kind of a
yeah.
long shot, but it could still work.
Yeah, there's not a lot of great ways to open the board. It is one of those things where I wonder if it will stay open for several turns just because there's not actually a great way of dealing with it. And Rashid, after Deity, is only starting up 7, so he's probably not going to feel like he can really afford to block it. He's probably just going to go straight for the Maw, which scores very well.
Yeah, and the another kind of downside of Deity is other than Austin drawing a bingo, there's not a ton of further upside for scoring, especially as you assume Ma or something it goes around Peba and obstructs that scoring spot. Then it sort of becomes more important that Austin gets a bingo. It sort of closes off his chance to approach this game just from a trying to win by scoring perspective. Austin is spending a lot of time here. I mean, he's correctly determined that this is a tough position, and we've spent a lot of time talking about it. I don't know, Matt, if we've missed something or if there's something better that he can do, but he doesn't really have an option that feels nice here.
I think we discussed a lot of the reasonable choices. I don't think there's too much else after that. Just a lot of not quite great plays that don't quite work and don't quite come back that often. Definitely a tough spot for Austin to think through.
Yeah, and he's running down his clock a little bit. He's down to 4.5 minutes. Like we're probably going to see a play relatively soon, just so he can maintain some time for the end game. I am curious if he's just going to try at all costs to maintain the Y and the D and hit that yodel spot that he might be feeling like that's his way back in this game is the 36 points he gets from that spot.
Yeah, for sure. Austin's ending up going with Hoo Hoo and Ute. I think his idea is maybe to fish for Yod. I like the idea.
Yeah, downside is he's only playing 2 tiles, so only 2 chances to draw the letters he needs.
For sure. Rashid is probably going to play either Mawa or Ma pretty quickly. Austin whiffs on the bingo. Might only really have Deity. No, if Mawa goes down, that empties the bag. Rashid's doing it Mawa.
Yeah, this looks pretty nice. Oh, he's taking it back.
Is he going to
But
put down Ma? Yeah, Mawa does lead to some situations where Austin can open a bingo lane, although I think it can be blocked.
yeah, I'd feel a little bit more if I was. I'd feel more secure if I was in Rashid's position to just play internal to the board and not kind of float letters towards the edge of the board where
Yeah,
the bingo line could be set up.
I think that's not a bad idea. Don't know exactly which way I would go. Mawa and Ma certainly both feel like reasonable choices. Austin might be getting to the point where he does something pretty crazy and desperate.
Yeah, I mean, he's only down by 11 points before this play, but he's going to be down by more than 40.
What do you think about? There's a very nice fit of oatmeal.
Ooh, wow.
That
That
does
is,
it makes it a little bit harder to even think about doing anything up top because Austin will only have one tile in the bag to work with. That would have been a really nice thing to spot.
yeah, being able to play more tiles in that position is advantageous for you. As you say, Austin's limited to 1 tile fishes. That's a very difficult play to see. You're not, like, I'm not considering that spot under lurking as any kind of potential place to make any plays at all. So to have a 30 point plus oatmeal there is just very hard to spot.
Yeah, Austin, I feel like we're going to see something like Deity on top. I don't think there's really a reasonable way to try to come back without bingo at this point. I think Austin's going to maybe look through the bag and look through the potential options and settle on Deity as one of those things where maybe it's not going to be possible to block everything depending on what he draws exactly.
Yeah, deity is pretty nice in that it kind of sets up two bingo lines because there is odor. It's sort of a marginal bingo spot after deity if if he draws one of the two remaining O's. Anything else he tries to do, like maybe in the lower left next to Peba, given Rasheed's knowledge of the state of the game, like a bingo line there is never going to stay open. Rasheed's not going to play anywhere else after a play like Tai or something like that. So that those options feel like they never work against a human opponent, whereas Deity still has some outside chance of drawing unblockable bingos or very, very difficult to block bingos.
Another interesting option is tie on top of or. We know Rashid has the C, and he'll probably play something like talk on top. But if the C is in the bag, there's actually sometimes not a lot of good ways to block everything. Actually, it also just sets up lactone this time, but there's definitely a world where Rashid has a lot of vowels, and tie actually makes it a little bit hard to deal with everything. And the EIDY leave actually doing pretty nicely with the two unseen L's. We can see a lot of things like tiredly maybe coming down readily. Tie is an interesting sneaky choice that's actually kind of hard for Rashid to deal with if he doesn't have the C. Austin's putting down deity.
I think this probably does work out for him the best. It just needs a good draw from the bag. And thankfully, he's not giving back lactone. That almost fits making odor, but not quite. So it's still a little bit of a glimmer here.
Yeah, Rashid with his highest scoring option of Octane, which I think will be safe this time, but that is hard to know for sure.
Yeah, we see the unseen pool from Rashid's perspective of AEEGILOR. I think that only forms one letter word. That would be aerogel. So that is probably his primary concern at this point.
Yeah, Octane is actually not safe because of aerogel. So it probably won't be that. I think there's a decent amount of choices though, as long as he kind of covers up that area. He could play something like Lance is a very safe play because you can easily see LI takes no hooks. You can see the C takes no hooks. That's one of those things where maybe in game that feels the safest to me. And OT feels like you'll find an outplay somehow.
Yeah, exactly. It might not be optimal in terms of what's actually in the bag, but it unambiguously blocks every bingo. And so you're just happy with that outcome. You might be sacrificing a little bit of spread to get that security, but you have the security that there's no way your opponent bingos after your play. So something like Lance would be very nice here. We see Octane being set up. That would not be a good idea from Rashid's perspective. We know that Austin doesn't have aerogel, but LOY is a word, so you can't risk giving up a bingo like that.
Yeah, he definitely has to do something to deal with the possibility aerogel plays right now. So we're not going to see something with odor, I don't think. But we also have to block it in a way that doesn't reset it up. That's why I like something like Lance. Very, very easy to tell it doesn't set up anything because of the C in space and the LI in space. So I like that idea.
Yeah, Rashid does have some time to figure this out. Austin has run down his clock a little bit, but he's probably just waiting for this game to end, so to speak. Rashid, I feel like is probably just trying to make sure he's playing as much defense as possible. It's a little bit tempting here if you're not paying attention to the state of the game to just go for another bingo. but that's not the way to go here. Um, Definitely, with only one tile in the bag, you can pretty easily determine any possible bingos that are available, especially with this board the way it is. There's no lanes for eights. So
Yeah,
it's straightforward enough to figure out what your opponent could do.
yeah. Computer analysis favors the play of Lancet. A little bit easier to go out. I think Lance fails to go out if you draw the eye, but I think Lancet always goes out. So it's going to be a little bit more accurate. Still, Rasheed does have quite a few choices that block everything, including Lancet and Lance. There's a lot of other ways to do it. Some of them I don't think we'll see, such as CONTE on top of deity. That does actually block everything, but it does feel kind of
Yeah,
insane.
right. If you've mistracked, that could be disastrous. Where something like Lance, even if you've mistracked, those letters are set up in such a way that there's no possible way in any universe that any bingo ever goes down up there.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we will see something like Lance because I think it's the easiest thing for a human to confirm in game. Wins every time.
So while we're waiting for Rasheed to make his decision, everybody make sure you're liking and subscribing. Like this stream, subscribe to Let's Play Scrabble. I got a pretty good amount of likes on my last plug for this, but I'm sure we could do even more. There's really, unless you're phobic of clicking buttons, which would make your life very difficult in general, there's no reason for you not to click that thumbs up button. So I want to see a bunch more likes on that one. We want to get this video pumped up. We want this stream pumped up so everybody, all the randos out there on YouTube, know that these cool things are happening. And I will be refreshing the stream shortly to see the effect of my words. And if it's not good enough, you will all feel my wrath.
Yes. Rasheed has been thinking for a while. Definitely, it feels a little bit tricky. One of those spots where you're happy to have preserved time.
Yeah, definitely. It feels if you're entering an end game like this, which is it does require some precision from Rasheed. He can't just play whatever he wants and hope that it works out. It's nice to go into those end games with a little 10-minute cushion. You can do things like double check your tracking. You can double check the scores. You can make sure all your bookkeeping is buttoned up nice and neat so that you know you're making the right play. And then, of course, you have a ton of time to look for candidate plays as well. So nice to go into an end game kind of relaxed like this, whereas Austin was sort of entering this end game in a rushed position, which certainly was going to make it harder for him.
Rasheed is playing cat. I do think, given the unseen pool, that it will be safe.
Yeah, I think this is another one where it's like he just has to do his diligence and make sure that the C isn't giving back anything. And in fact, it doesn't. But you have to be careful with plays like that. If you've mistracked, this could be a game-losing move.
Yeah. Austin with almost a bingo rack. Again, it's got a couple of different ways to go here. It's going to set up an out and two, I think. Here's a nice spot underneath Piba, which is going to probably contain some of the scoring plays available. Austin with very little time. Let's hope he doesn't go overtime again. He's playing Riel. I like the idea.
Yeah, this almost certainly gives him. Yeah, he's got like age next to Ring Dove. Certainly other stuff as well. So Just
Got a sneaky,
executing an out and two, good idea.
he's got a sneaky fit that'll score 26 points if he's seen it. Tricky
Ooh.
one, time ticking down, but
Yeah, let's not spoil it. I want to find it myself. I haven't seen it yet. Oh yeah, I guess now I'll spoil it. The spot where we're talking about oatmeal a little bit later might actually yield some points for Austin in the end. So that would be a cool little play here. And if Rasheed phonies or something, and Austin scores enough in that spot, could still win this game. It wouldn't be likely. I don't consider that likely, but always an option.
yes, Rasheed with probably his best options using the R on the triple. He can play something like Lentor or Looter.
Yeah, and the R is also the most obvious spot for Austin to go out with a reg. So even ignoring the fact that it scores a lot of points, it's also just a good sort of end game defensive play. So fully expect something like Tuller.
And hey, maybe if Rasheed goes the wrong way, Geel would be enough to come back. I don't think it's quite enough, but you never know. Don't know if Austin has seen it. He appears to have a reg spelled out, so maybe not.
Yeah, Rasheed getting a little bit low on time here. He's got to make a play eventually, and he is going up towards the top of the board. Looks like Loot.
Loot will be enough to win, although it will be pretty close if Austin sees Geel.
Yeah, if Austin sees Geel, this is an 8-point game. He does, in fact, spot it. Nicely spotted by Austin and successfully neutralizing the clock with 5 seconds left. Final score is going to be, it looks like 477 to 469.
Very high scoring game, very back and forth. We saw Rasheed struggle a bit at the beginning after Querist, despite a nice start, but he came back and won the game. Austin with a really nice end game in time pressure.
Yeah, let's see if we can cut it to overhead, Mike.
Yeah, well played.
Thank you.
That might be all we get, the well played.
What was the last line in the back?
I had lactone.
Oh, so it's O. Okay.
Yeah, O.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, if I played, I was trying to play Octane
Yeah.
to score, but I thought I look at the ties out that the only bingo out might be Aerogel.
Right.
So I saw that the AL will fit here. So that's why I
Yeah.
took it out. I said, no, I'm not going to play it. Then I look at all the ties out that with the C. I don't see any bingo out.
Yeah.
Glacier to E. Or O. I don't see or O. So at that point, I didn't see nothing coming there.
Yeah. Quite do it.
This was the only slap I had on this ball. I almost cried. I thought about it, and I also thought about this was the second mistake I made. I was planning to play Devo, D-E-V-O.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm down. I'm screaming for that spot too. That okay, what if I pick?
Right.
If I pick Ring Dove, I could play it as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, just waiting for like an A or an O.
Yeah,
I had the D
played,
here.
Yeah, but probably if I play pilated instead of the epilated, if I play pilated, I would have had a bingo again when I play this. Because the one E will be here, one E will be here.
Oh, okay.
The E will be separated.
Oh, right.
Because I had codifier. I don't know, maybe it's not good anyway. I had COVID. I first had codifier.
Yeah,
I had
good.
codifier. Yeah, that was when I played IEF.
Oh, I see.
I kept CORID. I played this.
Oh, right.
Okay. and it never worked out. I picked V and N. So I picked V and
boy.
N. So I was like, I'm just gonna play this COVID and get out of this. And the chorus was just like a blow in my brain. I was like, oh fuck me, why did I have to play this IF right at that point?
I mean, I had like quartets here, so I had 114 or something.
Yeah, but this, well, I'm not sure that will score as much as this.
Yeah, this is like 20 points more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chicken also, I thought of to start. I wanted to play unlike. I started doubting again in my head because I wanted the K to be here.
Right.
So I was
Unlike,
URNLIKE. Oh, I was like, just play what you're sure of. I want to take a gamble for the first move.
All right, sounds like we eventually got some good post-mortem out of that one. Although Rasheed was never clued into the fact that he did in fact miss code-driven, but still some good insights from both players. And I'm a little bit blurry here. Good thing we're almost done here, Matthew.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to take a lunch break, but how about we tune back in at 2:30 to watch the afternoon with Nitz Chukti and Elise Bickford, two very good commentators. We saw Elise yesterday. This will be Nitz's first time today, but if you've watched Let's Play Scrabble streams before, I'm sure you've seen Nitz. A very good personality to have on the stream.
Yeah, this will be a good session to watch coming up here after the lunch break. Again, I think we're resuming at 2:30. If you really are just desperate for more Charles and more Matthew, both of us will be on commentary later in the tournament, so never fear. You'll be hearing more from us shortly. But with that, I think we're ready to go off to lunch. Again, This is the 2025 Scrabble Players Championship, brought to you by NASPA. This has been Charles Reinke and Matthew O'Connor.
Thank you so much for having us, and we'll see you with a different commentator set at 2:30.